Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Sight for White and White Sense, welcoming you to this week's Talking News. Today, Friday, we are preparing for the fashion event at the Cowes Masonic Lodge tomorrow. The fashion event is in aid of Funds for Dress for Less, who of course donate their profits back to the charity. It looks to be a lovely day, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the 90 people who've booked tickets to come and see the fashion show that Debbie and her volunteers have put on. A huge thank you to all the models and volunteers who've come forward, and to Bridget, who has arranged the event at the Cowes Masonic Lodge. Earlier this week, I attended an event in Northwood where we were presented with our Thank You Award for taking part in the Island Initiative to increase employment for disabled people. A huge thank you to Marnie, who led the project, and for all of the jobs that have been created for people living with disabilities. We were also presented with our highly commended award for the Isle of Wight Radio Business Awards, where we were highly commended behind Vectors Radio. Finally, this week, we have also been shortlisted as a nomination for the Isle of Wight Chamber of Commerce Awards, which are to be held in May. We're down to the last three as the charity of the year. We're really looking forward to this event, as it is a beautiful black tie evening with some excellent speakers and a fun night. Of course, we are so proud to have been nominated, and if we win, that will be a bonus, but to be shortlisted really is a privilege. Thank you to everybody who nominated and helped to complete the applications, and I'm looking forward to the results. Thank you. Lisa, CEO, Sight for White and White Sense.
Here is this week's charity news, the 28th of March 2025.
Swimming at Medina is on Monday between 1:15pm and 2pm. We have the whole pool, so whether you wish to swim lanes or just have gentle exercise in the pool, you will be made very welcome. The cost is £6 and transport is available, although limited. All members are very welcome to join.
The God's Hill Coffee Morning is on Tuesday at the Old Smithy Coffee Shop between 10:30am and 12pm. Our wonderful volunteers, Yvonne and Linda, will be there to greet you.
Yoga at Millbrook House on Tuesday between 1:45 and 2:45pm. The cost is £4, including refreshments afterwards. This group is now full, but if you wish to put your name down on the waiting list, please call the office.
Coffee and Chat is on Wednesday, starting at 10am until 11:30am. The cost is £2 to include drinks and cake. Staff are on hand to help with any queries and to demonstrate equipment.
The book group meets at Newport Library on Thursday at 2pm. The group will be discussing their latest book, Animal Farm. This group is free to join. If you wish to join, please call the office.
Our fundraising for Easter is going very well, and we thank all our wonderful knitters for taking part. This year our Easter novelties will be on sale in Bryston Village stores, the Sloop, the Crown at Shorewell, Gounard Press, Hover Travel Terminals in Ryde and Southsea, as well as Millbrook House, for a suggested donation of £2.50.
We are holding an Easter Square Raffle with a host of Easter goodies up for grabs. The squares are £1 each, and the draw takes place on Wednesday, April the 16th, just in time for Easter.
We are once again holding a pudding and quiz evening on Friday the 25th of April at Millbrook House. A maximum of 4 per team and a charge of £5 per person. Teams are limited, so please call the office and put your name down before they sell out.
Our monthly 100 Club has spare balls available. If anyone would like to buy a ball, it is £2 per month or £24 for the full year. The more balls in draw, the higher the prize money each month. If you would like to take part in our monthly draw, please call the office. This is part of our fundraising activities.
New barn to be built at Alpaca Farm in Northwood. From the Island Echo, read by Joyce. A new barn will be built at an alpaca farm on the edge of the village of Northwood. County Hall has given consent to Richard Hargreaves' proposal to construct a timber barn on a grazing pasture next to his home, Medina House, off Church Lane, on the outskirts of Northwood. The approval comes after planners turned down a previous bid for a new barn at the site last November, citing its non-compliance with national planning legislation. Mr. Hargreaves' submitted planning statement said, "On the farm, we have a small herd of alpacas that live outdoors all year round. The barn will primarily be used for storage of hay and feed, and to securely store associated farm machinery such as ATV, poo picker, trailer, etc. In addition, it may act as a facility to carry out necessary husbandry jobs throughout the year, and as an additional shelter in the very bad weather. Part of the structure is an open covered area, or in the birthing season if the weather turns cold and wet overnight. Within the barn plan, there is a stall perhaps better described as the sick bay, because it will be kept clean and disinfected in case there is a sick animal needing attention from a vet." Gurnard Pines resident Jane Popov supported the application. "My 90-year-old mother lives in a property close to the land where the proposed barn is to be situated. She has no objection to the barn. In fact, the quality of her life is enhanced by the presence of alpacas in the field next to her home. Dog walkers, families enjoy the herd, many choosing to use the footpath on Church Lane expressly to view them. Anything that is needed to protect the herd and allow the public to continue enjoying seeing these animals is a bonus." The Council's decision report said, "It is concluded the proposal would be acceptable in terms of scale and design and would not cause harm to the character of the area or the surrounding countryside. Officers consider that no harm would be caused by way of overlooking, overshadowing, or loss of outlook."
Hello, this is Steve reading a story from Isle of Wight Radio with the headline, "Richard Quigley MP welcomes impending temporary banking hub for East Cowes." After successfully lobbying for a new community banking hub, Richard Quigley MP is pleased to update that a new temporary hub will be arriving in East Cowes in April 2025. Cash Access UK, a company funded by the UK's major high street banks to provide banking services to communities, have secured the temporary location with the support of East Cowes Town Council. Banking hubs work as shared banking spaces, operating similarly to traditional bank branches, but accessible to customers of all banks. The temporary hub, set to open in the coming weeks, will be run by post office employees. This means customers, regardless of their bank, can withdraw and deposit cash, make bill payments, and carry out routine banking transactions locally. The temporary banking hub will be a great asset for the residents and businesses of East Cowes alike, ensuring the community can have more immediate access to banking facilities while still being available to Cowes residents. Despite extensive efforts to secure a permanent venue in Cowes for an April 2025 opening, no suitable location was found in time. However, with the temporary site now in place, the search for a permanent location in Cowes will continue. Cash Access UK have signed an LPA for the temporary banking hub, which will be located in the East Side Curve, York Avenue in East Cowes. Richard Quigley MP celebrated the announcement, stating, "One issue that constituents raised time and time again during the election campaign was the lack of banking facilities in Cowes and East Cowes. I'm therefore thrilled and pleased to see that the banking hub will be set up, running and accessible to residents in the coming weeks. While the Cash Access UK team remain on the lookout for a permanent home for the banking hub in West Cowes, I'm pleased that they understand the pressing need for this facility now and have allowed island residents to gain greater access to their bank. I would like to thank East Cowes Town Council for their support in securing the location.
This is Den reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. MP calls for urgent government action after Isle of Wight East ranked second most left behind constituency. Joe Robertson, Member of Parliament for Isle of Wight East, has urged the government to prioritise funding and support for the East Wight, following the Independent Commission on Neighbourhoods ICON report, which identifies the constituency as the second most left behind in England. The report is intended to direct the government on how to deliver on its 5 missions, which include building an NHS fit for the future, kick-starting economic growth and breaking down barriers to opportunity by reforming education. The ICON report points to poor infrastructure, lower paid jobs, poor health outcomes and limited educational attainment. In his letter, Mr. Robertson stressed the need for substantial public investment to reverse these trends. Now the East Wight has been identified as the second most in need. He says he wants to see the government respond decisively and make good on its promise to deliver on its 5 missions. The MP referred to the Council's recent consultation to close island primary schools and criticised the per-pupil national funding criteria may work for England in general, but is undermining our ability to provide educational choice locally because of our unique connectivity and demographic challenges. It threatens the viability of many of our primary schools, which serve deprived areas close to home. He asks the government for support. The MP says in his letter, the report identifies 94% of the East Wight population as living in neighbourhoods with the highest need. Only one constituency ranks higher in all of England's 543 constituencies. The report uses data for crime, health, energy, jobs and educational achievement, and I understand that it will inform the basis of the government's plan to invest and deliver on its 5 missions. This means the government should be making the East Wight, and indeed the whole island, a priority, as it now has the evidence it needs. The letter goes on to say, I therefore request a meeting with you to discuss ways in which the government plans to deliver on its 5 missions in my constituency. In particular, support for ensuring we avoid closing schools serving more deprived communities, improve health and social care outcomes, attract new investment to secure better jobs, and reduce the cost and inconvenience of getting on and off the island. I am looking to the government to respond decisively and make good on its promise in accordance with its own commissioned report.
16 much-needed homes could be built if former school in Totland is sold. From the Island Echo, read by Joyce. A former school site in Totland could be sold this week, paving the way for 16 much-needed new homes. Deputy Council Leader Councillor Ian Stevens may decide to approve the final terms of the sale of the former Western Academy site on Totland's Western Road to real estate firm Strategic Green Land, SGL. SGL's pitch is to deliver 16 housing units, 4 of which will be affordable, according to a report signed by Councillor Stevens. Once built, the company proposes to give the affordable homes to a registered social landlord. SGL's plans also include retaining and refurbishing the original stone schoolhouse and delivering lower-priced housing, ideal as starter homes. Weston Primary School closed in 2008 due to a restructuring of the council's education estate. The school was later turned into an academy, which also closed. County Hall's report says, the site was therefore declared surplus and marketed for sale. A preferred bidder, Strategic Green Land, was approved by Cabinet in March 2024, subject to final terms being approved. And since that time, the council has been in negotiations with the purchaser to purchase the site. Contracts for the sale are ready to be signed. Therefore, this report seeks approval to those final terms agreed. In 2021, the council was awarded £195,265 of Brown Land Release Fund, BLRF, Self and Custom Build, S&CB, grant to fund site infrastructure and preparation costs on this site to enable the delivery of housing. SGL's intention remains to develop the site in accordance with these grant conditions so that they may benefit from the grant. The paper adds due diligence has been carried out to ensure that SGL is able to deliver its proposal. It also states SGL's bid was the highest financial offer received. The final terms of the sale are confidential under the Local Government Act of 1972, due to them relating to the financial and business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information.
Hi everyone, this is Steve reading a story from the Island Echo with the headline, Shanklin HMO plans approved, despite backlash from locals. An 8-bedroom house in the middle of the seaside town of Shanklin will become a house in multiple occupation, that's an HMO, despite an outcry over the plans. Mr Singh's planning application to County Hall for a change of use of 23 Atherley Road in Shanklin has been approved by planners as a positive contribution to meeting local housing needs. The 2-storey property currently has 2 kitchens, 2 lounges, 2 en-suites, 3 shower rooms and 1 bathroom. Submitted plans show the HMO will have 8 bedrooms plus a communal bathroom, shower room, 2 lounge kitchen areas and 2 resident storage spaces. A total of 9 people objected to Mr Singh's proposal, raising concerns relating to the prevalence of and need for HMOs in the area, property maintenance, antisocial behaviour and security, effects on the local tourism industry, community and elderly people, and the standard of the proposed accommodation. They also flagged family housing needs, impacts on property values and the area's character, parking availability, road congestion and maintenance, noise pollution, overstretched public services and local infrastructure capacity. Atherley Road resident Emma Godsill said, "This application to increase resident numbers in the property without providing any parking facilities will only exacerbate existing problems. I'm also concerned that this will provide more transient accommodation in a road already saturated with HMOs, when the area is lacking available properties for families or long-term residents." Simon Pusey of North Road said, "This is going to sound NIMBY, however, that's not my intention. Atherley Road is the first experience of Shanklin for many visitors on their way to the beach or accommodation. As the road stands, as a first impression of our town, it is very poor. Adding more residential space on an already congested and poorly maintained road isn't going to improve the situation for current residents, the proposed new residents and visitors to Shanklin." The council's report explaining the decision said, "Given the relatively small scale of the use proposed, edge of centre location and variety of uses and accommodation locally, it's considered the proposal is unlikely to have any significant impact on the residential character of the locality. All bedrooms would be of a reasonable size and benefit from windows providing sources of daylight and outlook. The property also benefits from small front and rear gardens, with the rear garden providing some communal outdoor amenity space. There's no evidence that existing HMO uses are harming the area in terms of crime and disorder locally. It's considered future occupiers of the HMO would be less likely to own a car. The proposed use would be unlikely to have a severe impact on the highway network.
This is Den reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Ventnor Cricket Club to celebrate 175th anniversary with visit of England legend. Ventnor Cricket Club will celebrate its 175th anniversary this summer with a number of events, including an evening with England legend Matthew Hoggard on Saturday, the April the 5th. This is a massive year for Ventnor CC, which has come a long way since its early days in the Isle of Wight Cricket League. Over the years, the club has expanded into mainland competitions, first competing in the Cross Solent League, followed by the Hampshire League, and ultimately reaching the Southern League. Recent success for the first and second 11 makes Ventnor the highest performing club on the island. The rise through the divisions to now compete in Division 1 of the Southern League has only been possible due to the dedication and passion of both past and present members. A spokesperson for Ventnor CC said, "We are also proud of our excellent facilities, which include our very own 3-lane cricket hall, as well as impressive bar and clubroom facilities, some of the best in the country. Given the significance of our 175th anniversary, we believe this is an ideal time to celebrate the incredible community spirit that has made our club so special over many years."
Isle of Wight cracks down on criminals using self-storage facilities for illicit activities. From Isle of Wight Radio, read by Joyce. Self-storage businesses across the Isle of Wight are joining forces to prevent criminals from using self-storage facilities to house counterfeits and illicit goods. The Tick Boxes scheme, a national scheme designed to keep criminals out of self-storage facilities, was introduced to the island in 2020. Since then, self-storage businesses, including Barn Store, Cows Movers, Isle of Wight Removals and Storage, and Inner Spaces Self-Storage, have joined the scheme, ensuring their businesses are doing their utmost to keep their premises and, by extension, their customers safe from illegal activity. In recent years, enforcement action by trading standards in England and Wales and the police have resulted in the seizure of thousands of counterfeit items estimated to be worth millions of pounds, disrupting criminal networks. The benefits that self-storage facilities offer in terms of ease of rental and ready access can make them attractive to criminals who want to operate below the radar and store illicit goods, including counterfeit goods and unsafe consumer products. However, these counterfeit goods pose a serious risk to both self-storage businesses and the public storing their belongings there. Fake products do not undergo the same rigorous safety testing as genuine products and could be highly dangerous, like fake batteries. Electrical items or unsafe chemicals could cause fires or chemical leaks, putting not only stored goods but the lives of customers and staff at risk. Dominic Hampson, operations manager at Inner Spaces, based in Cowes, shared how Tickbox has been invaluable in highlighting potentially suspicious behaviour saying, "The scheme was very simple to implement and we were supported throughout. It has strengthened our approach to customer verification and reinforced the importance of vigilance across all stages, from inquiry to contract completion. We've worked hard to build the trust of our customers over the 15 years we've been operating on the island. Fake and illicit goods would undermine that relationship and damage our standing within the community and industry. Storing counterfeit products isn't just about the immediate risks. It opens the door to a chain reaction of negative consequences, from compromising safety and security to fueling larger societal issues. At Inner Spaces, we are committed to ensuring that our facility remains a safe, law-abiding environment for all." James Potter, Trading Standards and Community Safety Manager for the Isle of Wight Council, added, "The appeal of cheaper goods may seem tempting, but counterfeit goods will be of a very poor quality and will not have gone through the same amount of rigorous testing as genuine products on the market to keep consumers safe. Purchasing counterfeit goods has further proven consequences, including contributing to job losses in the UK every year, a negative impact on the economy, impacting workers' rights, and being linked to organised criminal groups who are involved in serious crime. If you're caught making or selling counterfeit goods, this can have serious implications with an imprisonment term of up to 10 years and or an unlimited fine. Tickbox is a free partnership between Local Trading Standards, the Intellectual Property Office and the Self Storage Association UK. It provides storage facilities with a voluntary code of practice to verify customers' identities and the intended use of storage units.
Hello, this is Steve reading a story from the Island Echo with the headline, Isle of Wight man who made airport bomb threat to be sentenced in May. A Shanklin man who falsely told police that there was a bomb at Gatwick Airport will learn his fate in May. Richard Herbert, who's 26, of High Street in Shanklin, admitted bomb hoax and communicating false information, criminal damage, and racially or religiously aggravated fear or provocation of violence by words or writing at a Crown Court hearing on the 17th of March. The court heard how, on the 9th of February, Herbert falsely told Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary that there was a bomb located at Gatwick Airport's North Terminal. The following day in Shanklin, Herbert caused damage of around £500 to a door and verbally assaulted a male. His Honour Judge Melville KC adjourned the case until 2nd of May for sentencing.
This is Den reading an article from the Island Echo. Group of 60 take part in inaugural Great Bay wide litter pick. Nearly 60 community-minded volunteers from across Sandown Bay grabbed their litter picks and rolled up their sleeves as part of the first ever Great Bay-wide litter pick last weekend, Saturday the 22nd of March. The event was led by Ben Holbrook of Building the Bay, the Area Place Plan Steering Group. It was part of the Great British Spring Clean, a national initiative by Keep Britain Tidy, and saw Sandown and Shanklin Green Town volunteers and members of the public litter pick from Yaverland to Shanklin Old Village. In just 2.5 hours, the plucky volunteers collected 45 bags of litter from sand dunes, paths, hedges and verges across the bay. Ben said, "It was really heartwarming to have such a fantastic turnout of amazing volunteers at the first time of organising a bay-wide event like this, and we thank each and every one who came along. We would all prefer not to be doing this on a Saturday morning, but while council budgets are being cut and thoughtless individuals continue to think it's okay to discard of rubbish wherever they like, if we all pick up the odd bit of litter and dispose of it correctly, the bay and the island will be a cleaner and nicer place for all. After the success of the first event, it's hoped that the bay-wide litter pick might become a more regular event. The litter pick finished at Lake Cliff Gardens, and the weary volunteers were treated to cakes and refreshments, kindly donated by Tesco Ride. The litter collected as part of the event was kindly disposed of by Biffa Waste Services, Isle of Wight, and we thank them for their support.
Good morning, my name is Valerie Rutherford Jackson.
And I'm Sam.
We're reading the first item today. The County Press in Visit to Vital Service. When the County Press hits the shelves on Friday mornings, the team at the Isle of Wight charity Sight for Wight prepare the stories to be recorded and distributed to blind people. 2 volunteer readers and a producer sit in the studio in Carisbrooke every Friday and record a selection of news, stories, events listings and letters from the newspaper. And I was invited along to be a guest newspaper reader. Sight for Wight has been providing its talking news service for nearly 50 years, recording stories initially onto tapes and now distributing via memory sticks, YouTube and Alexa. The recordings can be found on YouTube, and you can decide for yourself how I did from about 31 minutes in. It was slightly surreal to be reading the stories that have been developed in the newsroom over the last week. As a reporter, I'm on the job all the time gathering news. I rarely take a step back to read the actual newspaper once it is out, and certainly not out loud. Volunteers work on a rota basis, recording around once a month. The process takes about 90 minutes in total and benefits the blind community on the Isle of Wight. As you read, you discover your defects in reading from a script. Mine was reading sums of money, taking several runs at a 6-figure total. I read with Madeline Goodman and was recorded by Terry Mitchell, both long-time volunteers at Sight for Wight. Madeline became a volunteer in 2013, finding out about talking news through a friend. She said, "I always liked reading, so Terry came and tested me out." The first time reading with Jerry, another volunteer, I came across an article about poo. We were absolutely in stitches. I too was handed an article about poo to read, which caught me off guard. I think I carried it out in style, however. The trickiest part was working out the pronunciation of some words, including one particularly difficult advert for a Polish piano recital. And having the stamina to keep reading, I have a renewed respect for newsreaders. Sight for Wight is the working name for the Isle of Wight Society for the Blind, established in 1895.
Anger as legal dispute delays Ventnor Road reopening hopes. A councillor has criticised the Isle of Wight Council for failing to act over a collapsed wall that has kept a key road in Ventnor closed for well over a year. A legal dispute has delayed the reopening of Bath Road, which closed in October 2023. Bath Road, a crucial link between Ventnor Esplanade and the top of the town, has been shut ever since, after heavy rainfall caused a privately owned wall to collapse, burying the road beneath rubble. Frustrated residents recently took it upon themselves to begin clearing debris, hoping to encourage Island Roads to intervene. Island Councillor for Ventnor and St Lawrence, Ed Blake, was aware of an ongoing legal dispute between the Isle of Wight Council and the landowner. He said it was understood the matter was due to be heard at the Isle of Wight Magistrates' Court. However, he has since learned that this is not the case, and proceedings were only submitted within the past month. Councillor Blake said a council officer confirmed to him of a significant delay in legal proceedings. In frustration, Councillor Blake laid the blame for the inaction at the door of the Isle of Wight Council leader, Councillor Phil Jordan, the Cabinet Member for Highways. The claims made in public meetings, the Isle of Wight Council has been actively pursuing the landowner to repair the wall and reopen the road, have proven to be false. For over a year, the council has failed to act, instead relying on the false narrative the landowner was holding the town to ransom. The closure of this key road has had a significant impact on both residents and businesses along the seafront and surrounding areas. This delay is entirely unacceptable. At the Ventnor Residents' meeting with the Isle of Wight Council in December at County Hall, Bath Road's prolonged closure was discussed. The council indicated an intention to survey the works needed to determine the cost of repairs to the wall and road, and carry out the repairs on behalf of the private landowner and neighbouring property. In response to Councillor Blake's criticism, the council said it would open the road as soon as possible. Legal proceedings were initiated in March last year, but due to procedural clarifications and legal advice, the case has experienced delays, the council said. Additionally, a backlog of cases in the Magistrates' Court has contributed to the extended timeline.
London Calling, free day trips for Isle of Wight youngsters. A programme will see every Isle of Wight primary school receive a free day trip to London. The initiative, designed by Diamond Adventures and backed by sponsors White Fibre and Red Funnel, aims to broaden the horizons of island children. For many, this will be their first venture off the island and onto the UK's capital. Diamond Adventures hopes to dispel the notion of London as a big scary city and instead showcase its rich history and culture. The annual programme will cater to all Year 5 groups, similar to the UKSA Test the Water initiative for Year 6. The trips organised by Diamond Adventures will include coach travel, Red Funnel ferry crossings and entry to London attractions. Kieran O'Toole, Managing Director of Diamond Adventures, said, "It was with utmost excitement that we offer this unique opportunity." Josh Harris, Director, added, "With over 35% of island children living in poverty, according to the End Child Poverty Coalition, all of us at Diamond Adventures, along with sponsors White Fibre and Red Funnel, know how beneficial this programme will be for our educational community and local children." A Year 5 pupil from Barton Primary School said, "I'm so excited to visit London."
High Sheriff won't miss wearing tights. The outgoing High Sheriff of the Isle of Wight, Graham Biss, hosted a heartfelt evening of thanks at Newport Minster on Wednesday evening. The event celebrated the dedication and contributions of those involved in the island's voluntary sector during his year of office. Around 80 attendees enjoyed the event, with delicious Isle of Wight cheese from Biddlesford Farm the centre of attention at the buffet, a mark of Mr. Biss's enthusiastic support of island food and produce. The High Sheriff expressed his appreciation for the efforts of all those who had supported the island's voluntary organisations during his term of office. He also extended warm thanks to his wife, Sue, for her constant support. Injecting a touch of humour into the proceedings, he joked that he wouldn't miss the tradition of wearing tights, bringing laughter from the crowd. Lord Lieutenant Susie Sheldon took the opportunity to praise Mr. Biss for his exemplary performance in carrying out the ancient role of High Sheriff, to enthusiastic applause. The evening not only marked the conclusion of Mr. Biss's term of office, but also paved the way for a new chapter, as Jackie Gazzard prepares to be sworn in as the next High Sheriff on April the 7th.
New Memory Cafe for people with dementia to open at Newport Minster. A new weekly memory cafe for people living with dementia and their carers have opened at Newport Minster. The cafe is funded by a concert by the Phoenix Choir and the National Lottery Heritage Fund. The first session was held on Wednesday. No diagnosis is required to attend, and carers and family members are encouraged to join. The cafe will provide refreshments and creative activities hosted by Independent Arts. There is also a chatty table for attendees to socialise. Community Engagements Coordinator Hannah Griffiths said, "We know so many lives on the island are affected by dementia. The team at the Minster felt we should be offering a safe space for people living with dementia to come and join our community." Thanks to the generous donors at last year's Phoenix Choir concert at the Minster, we are also able to offer funded creative sessions for people to express themselves as part of the project. We are looking forward to welcoming a new group of people to the Minster as part of this project. For more information, contact Hannah at cec@co, that's spelled cec@cofeheartwight.org. Or call on 07563 247758.
County Press columnist's latest labour of love. An Isle of Wight writer with cerebral palsy, who writes with his nose, is set to release his third book. Josh Barry from East Cowes has drawn from his stash of interviews on the Beyond the Title podcast to put together the Pop Culture Handbook. He has included interviews with Joe Wiley and Johnny Ball in his new book about entertainment after the COVID pandemic. Josh, a County Press columnist, was born with aphatoid cerebral palsy and taught himself to type with his nose on an iPad. On Beyond the Title, Josh enlists a team of assistants to lead the conversation and has interviewed stars including Melvin Bragg, Ken Bruce and Greg James. The book draws from over 50 of Josh's interviews, including celebrities Dame Joan Bakewell, Danny Wallace, Adam Hills and Wendy Craig. The book will be released on Saturday, May the 3rd. Josh said, "With a detailed analysis of where entertainment sits in the psyche of the nation, this is a must-read for any telly-addict or anyone with a soaring passion for the arts. Prepare to revel in stars, fashion and music as Josh transports you back to a time when entertainment was as potent as the colour of your slinky."
Pub alert, Peacock's Crossing. A popular Isle of Wight pub has installed signs warning motorists of Peacock's Crossing. Staff at the Hare and Hounds in Downs End have put up the signs to remind drivers to be cautious in the hope that peacocks will not be hurt by the traffic. Peacocks are frequently spotted at the site, which is next to a main road. The birds are sometimes spotted at the Blue Shelter on Down End Road, the bus shelter, as well as Robin Hill Adventure Park, which opens soon.
Patients warned against signing up for online doctors. Island patients are being warned about signing up for online GP services after reports of islanders being unintentionally deregistered from local practices. GP practices, including Tower House Surgery in Ryde and St Helens Medical Centre, have released important notices after discovering that several patients had unknowingly removed themselves from their local care. Patients have registered with services such as GP at Hand, which is widely promoted on social media. Please be aware that registering for these services will automatically remove you from your current GP surgery, even if you don't realise it at the time, a spokesperson for Tower House Surgery warned. These services often do not offer local face-to-face appointments, and once registered, you may be left without a GP during a waiting period. The warning comes amid growing concern that island residents could be left without access to a GP during the transition between services. GP at Hand, operated by Babylon and part of the NHS, offers 24/7 access to digital consultations with GPs, nurses, pharmacists, mental health practitioners and physiotherapists. However, while the service provides around-the-clock care via video or telephone, it does not have a physical presence on the island. In-person appointments are limited to clinics based in London and are only available to those within a 40-minute travel radius of those sites. Island surgeries are urging patients to speak to their current GP practice before signing up with any online provider. Tower House Surgery is also encouraging islanders to help spread the word and ensure others are informed about the potential consequences of registering with remote services that are not based locally. If you're unsure or have questions, please speak to your current practice before signing up for any online GP services, the surgery added.
King Charles gives County Press team a royal approval by Zach Saunders. Isle of Wight County Press editor Laurie Little and chief reporter Oliver Dyer spoke to King Charles about the positive rule of local media at a reception at Buckingham Palace. The King and Queen had invited selected representatives of regional media to the special event on Wednesday. In a heartfelt message of support, King Charles highlighted the crucial role local journalism plays in society, especially during times of uncertainty. Laurie spoke to the King about the importance of trusted news outlets such as the County Press and told him the County Press has been serving its community since 1884. The King asked if readers let the County Press know if they ever get things wrong, to which Laurie replied, "Oh yes, straight away," and explained they were always happy to get direct feedback from their loyal readers. The King joked that the County Press didn't need a form of BBC Verify in that case. Laurie said it was an absolute honour and career highlight for Oliver and I to be invited to meet the King and the Queen at Buckingham Palace to represent trusted island media. It really put the Isle of Wight on the map, being able to talk to the King about our newspaper and readers. It was also a brilliant opportunity to speak to other journalists about how proud we are to work in the country's biggest selling local weekly paper. Also in attendance at the reception was other News Quest colleagues, the BBC South Today Sally Taylor, who recently retired after almost 4 decades, and ITV Meridian's Andrew Pate. The King said on Wednesday, I have long believed that regional media in all its forms has a unique and vital role to play in society, perhaps even more so in these uncertain times. Your reporting and the work of all those who support you helps amplify and reaffirm the rights and responsibilities we all share. It shines a light in dark corners, exposing injustice and wrongdoing. Above all, it helps strengthen our communities in times of joy and at moments of sorrow. You won't always get it right. A free media is one that will and does make mistakes. But at its best, it is a cornerstone of our democracy. I know how commercial pressures and changing technologies have had a significant impact on your industry. But as the media landscape has changed, so too many of you have adapted and innovated, finding ways of sharing your journalism and engaging audiences in new and creative ways.
Landmark pub damaged in early morning blaze. Drone footage has revealed the full extent of the devastation caused by a fierce fire that tore through a beloved pub in the early hours of Tuesday morning. Emergency services responded to reports of smoke and flames coming from the roof of the Portland Inn in Gurnard shortly before 12:30 a.m. Multiple fire crews from Newport, Ryde, East Cowes, Sandown and Shanklin rushed to the scene off Worsley Road. Aerial ladder platforms, main jets and hose reel jets were used to bring the blaze under control. Despite their rapid response, flames quickly swept through the first floor and into the loft space, causing extensive damage. All nearby residents in the adjoining accommodation were safely evacuated, and no injuries have been reported, the county press has been told. The fire was brought under control by 6 a.m, but daylight soon revealed the scale of the destruction. The roof has been left severely damaged, and the blaze has caused significant harm to the entire building, a fire spokesperson said. Photos show windows blown out and holes left in the roof. Fire crews remained on the site throughout Tuesday morning, damping down hotspots. A coordinated relief strategy was put in place overnight, with crews from Hampshire drafted in to help at the scene and provide emergency cover across the island. Speaking to the county press following the fire, Alice Watney, manager of the Portland Inn, said, It is a really unfortunate set of circumstances, and we will have the pub up and running as quick as we can. Thank you to the community for your support. The pub has been closed and will not reopen until repair works are carried out. Posting on Facebook, the pub said, The pub needs to be made safe and secure, so you will see safety bars, barriers and scaffolding going up over the next few days. Please be careful of the cones on the pavement outside the pub. Please don't walk inside this area, as there are loose tiles on the roof. We will get this safe as soon as possible, but please bear with us.
And success for U13's team. Congratulations to a girls' football team from the island who have been crowned champions of a Hampshire County League. The White Eagles Academy's U13 girls team are champions of the Hampshire Girls Youth Football League Division 3. The team has one game left to play and aims to finish the season unbeaten. The young Eagles have an incredible record of 16 wins and a draw from their 17 matches and are 12 points clear of their nearest rivals, Baffin's Milton Rovers Amazons. The club's director of football, Dan Verstraeten, and its chairman, Mike Ross, both described the team's achievements as amazing. We have some raw talent in this group, and we do believe this is the start of something very good at our club, said Dan. Pictured are some of the girls celebrating their title win.
Craig's pool win shock. An Ireland man has qualified for the UK Open Pool Championship after just 7 weeks of practice. Craig Brown took a 13-month break from all cue sports to focus on darts, but resumed playing 9-ball pool in January. With the Isle of Wight lacking proper American pool tables, 31-year-old Craig practiced on a snooker table using American pool balls. I didn't think I would actually qualify, as I don't get to play on tables and don't have any match practice at all, explained Craig of Newport. It's a bit of a shock, but I played really well. It will be a different level against the top players. On Sunday, Craig entered the UK Open qualifier in Tooting, London, after finishing his shift at B&Q in Newport the night before. Craig went on to win his first 2 games 7-3 and 7-2 before securing his qualification with a 7-0 whitewash over Andrew Fan, who played at the UK Open last year.
Sports Achievement Awards go for gold after 50 years. With some of the Isle of Wight's Olympians watching on, the island paid tribute to its sporting heroes last night, that's Thursday. The 50th Isle of Wight Sports Achievement Awards, sponsored by WRS Systems at Newport's Medina Theatre, saw sportspeople and those who support them honoured for their excellence. From a 13-year-old archery protege to a woman who has dedicated more than 45 years to equestrian sport on the island, a wide range of talent was honoured in front of a packed and enthusiastic crowd of more than 400. Rosemary Edwards, who has just celebrated 45 years volunteering with the Isle of Wight Mountain and Moorland Society, collected the Lifetime Achievement Award, while Neil Lacey, whose son Zach picked up the Disability Seniors Ward, was honoured with the Service to Sports Prize for his work with the National Down Syndrome Swimming Organisation. At the other end of the age range, 13-year-old Summer Chambers was named Top Junior Girl after qualifying for the National Age Group Archery Academy, and Rafe Bradley, 14, who won the International Junior Award after becoming world champion in the RS Terra class. The 2 awards were given out to rowers Simon Howes and the Mermaid Atlantic team, who had completed the transatlantic voyages under their own steam. In all, 25 awards were given out, with guests including the Isle of Wight Lord Lieutenant Susie Sheldon, the High Sheriff Graham Bliss, Isle of Wight Council Vice Chairman Vanessa Churchman, and the Isle of Wight West MP Richard Quigley. A special section to mark the 50th anniversary of the awards honoured the people who have represented the Isle of Wight at the Olympics and Paralympics. From gold medal rower Louis Attrill, who was present on the night as the disc thrower Nick Percy, who won the Senior Men's Award, to Shirley Robertson, a past presenter of the awards and double gold medalists. The parents of Paralympic silver medalist for rowing, Annie Caddick, accepted the Senior Women's Disability Award for her achievement in Paris last year. There was also a special tribute paid by Andy Castle, a Paralympic sailor who sadly died last week. A short film was shown featuring a selection of the island's Olympians, created by the Isle of Wight observers Tilly Walder and Richard Priest. The Isle of Wight Observer was also recognised for our support of Gary Gee's mental health in football campaign. Gary took home the Making a Difference Award. Claire Beasley, chairman of the Isle of Wight Sports Foundations, which runs the awards, said, "The sheer quality, the dedication and perseverance shown by our athletes and volunteers never ceases to amaze me. It has been an honour to organise these awards this year, and the island should be proud of the people we have recognised tonight." In his closing remarks, Graham Biss said, "Your passion, commitment and relentless pursuit of excellence are what drive our sporting community forward. To all of our athletes, coaches, volunteers and officials, thank you for your dedication and for inspiring us all. A huge thank you once again to our main sponsor, WRS Systems, and to all of our incredible sponsors who make these awards possible. Your support enables us to honour and celebrate these outstanding achievements year after year."
Ireland's Adam, key to England title success. A squash coach has played a pivotal role in helping England secure gold at the prestigious Transatlantic Masters squash event. Representing his country against top-level players from the USA, Canada and Ireland, Adam Dominy delivered a string of impressive performances that contributed to England's overall success at the iconic Fitzwilliam Lawn Tennis Club in Dublin. Adam made a strong start in his opening match, comfortably dispatching Canadian opponent Jay Anderson in straight games, 11-3, 11-3, 11-9. He followed up with another dominant display, defeating the USA's Stephen Tannenbaum 11-5, 11-4, 11-2. The final match came against Ireland, with the gold medal hanging in the balance. After dropping the first game 3-11, the Newport-based player staged a dramatic comeback. Adam edged his opponent in the next three games 11-9, 14-12, 11-6, clinching the match and securing three key victories for the England team.
Next section, Days Gone By. 100 years ago, in March 1925, the second Island Music Festival was due to be held in Ryde in May, and entries for the three sections of the competition were closing on April the 8th. Overheard in a local school grammar lesson when the teacher was doing her best to explain the meaning of tense. If the sentence "I had money" is the past tense, what tense is the sentence "I have money" in? She asked. One bright pupil responded, "Pretense, miss."
125 years ago, in March 1900, a bill promoted by Cowes District Council to construct a pier off the parade to land passengers and goods came before a select committee of the House of Lords. At a meeting of the Association for the Promotion of the Interests of the Town of Ryde, members discussed the charges for introducing electric light for the town, which were due to be higher than elsewhere. 75 years ago, in April 1950, two convicts, George Steele and Frederick Seiger, escaped from their cells in Parkhurst Prison, but were recaptured within the grounds in the early hours after being absent for about 90 minutes. A campaign aimed at encouraging island caterers to pay more attention to food hygiene was launched at the Guildhall in Newport. Delegates were told that cases of food poisoning had risen since the war, with 5,000 outbreaks reported.
50 years ago, in March 1975, two Yarmouth men were selected to represent Britain in the bobsleigh event at the following year's Olympics in Innsbruck. John Calcutt and Richard Minchin had previously won the first place in the junior British event and fourth place in the junior European event. Ironically, a venue known as the Serenity Hotel in Totland was granted a late-night music licence by magistrates, despite protests from elderly residents in the area.
25 years ago, in April 2000, Paul and Pat Woodnut, a mother and son from Ryde, alerted authorities and an incoming train to several concrete blocks from the Island Line, saving 100 passengers from harm. The blocks had been placed on the line by vandals, in the latest of a series of obstructions placed on the track. Paul kept watch to flag down the train, while Pat attracted the attention of another person who phoned emergency services.
Untangling the old mystery of brewing. Brewing has been an essential part of human history for thousands of years. Archaeological evidence shows that brewing dates back to at least 5,000 years BC in Mesopotamia, where a fermented barley beverage was created that was the ancestor of modern beer. Over time, brewing spread across cultures and continents, with each adding its unique stamp to the process. Fast forward to today, and we're faced with countless varieties of beers and ales, many of which can feel overwhelming to casual drinkers. But what truly sets ale, beer and lager apart? What is beer? Beer is an umbrella term used to describe any alcoholic drink made by fermenting malted cereal grains, usually barley, water and hops, from light golden pilsners to rich dark stouts. All ales and lagers technically fall under the beer category. The confusion comes from the methods and yeast used during brewing and how these influence the taste, aroma and appearance of the drink. How about ale? Ale represents the older method of brewing beer. Dating back to ancient civilizations, its defining characteristic is the use of top fermenting yeast, which ferments at warmer temperatures, typically between 15 and 24 Celsius. This process is faster and leads to a more robust and complex flavor profile, often with fruity and spicy notes. There are various ale styles, including pale ales, porters, stouts and wheat beers. Ales are the soul of traditional brewing, often associated with independent craft breweries and local pubs. Lager, a relatively modern invention. Lager emerged later, originally in Central Europe during the 16th century. It relies on bottom fermenting yeast, which works best in cooler conditions around 7 to 13 centigrade. The fermentation process takes longer, resulting in a clean, crisp taste that's milder than ales. With their light bodies and refreshing qualities, lagers have become a staple for large brewing brands, but are also being reimagined by smaller local breweries. To celebrate local brewing, whether you're an ale enthusiast or devoted lager lover, one thing is clear: brewing has deep roots in community and craftsmanship. Local breweries are reviving forgotten methods, experimenting with flavors, and keeping brewing traditions alive. If you are interested in tasting a beer you haven't come across before, ask the landlord if you could sample it. Most will be happy to let you have a sip or two. Local beers are becoming more and more fashionable, so the next time you are out for a drink, why not explore what our Ireland breweries have to offer? You may find your inner beer lover.
World War II memories to be captured for posterity. Carisbrooke Castle Museum has embarked on a year-long project to collect and preserve memories of islanders who lived through the Second World War. The initiative, titled VE80 Unlocking Stories, commemorates the 80th anniversary since the end of the war and aims to connect generations through shared local history. The museum is collaborating with Brading Primary School, the Island 3 School, and other community partners including Independent Arts, Alzheimer Cafe Isle of Wight, and Ventnor Town Council. Together, they'll host intergenerational learning experiences where school pupils meet with older residents to uncover personal stories from 1945. Reminiscence sessions will also be held across the island, and in-depth recorded interviews will capture first-hand accounts. These recorded memories will form the basis of a travelling exhibition later in the year. Recently appointed project manager Lisa Curley expressed her enthusiasm for the initiative. She said, "This project enables us to preserve the memories of some of the island's oldest residents. Sharing 1940s objects in the community will inspire memories and allow future generations to learn about this momentous time." Museum manager Lee Donald added, "Community engagement is at the heart of our work. This project allows us to bring generations together, spark important conversations, and ensure that these invaluable personal histories are not lost." The project has received $29,800 in funding from Arts Council England, with match funding from the Isle of Wight Council via their museums and school programmes. For more details or to participate, contact Lisa Curley at Carisbrooke Castle Museum on 523 11112 or via their Facebook page.
Next section, letters and opinion. Is it right that we are one island with no governors? By Matthew Chatfield, columnist. After watching the compelling BBC historical drama Wolf Hall, I read about the life of Thomas Cromwell, advisor to Henry VIII. Cromwell was showered with titles and gifts by his king, and in 1538 one of these was the post of governor of the Isle of Wight. With a few short interregna, the office of governor was active until Lord Motistone resigned the post over 450 years later, in 1995. Since then it has been vacant. In the 20th century, the office of governor was a courtesy title, although those holding it were often prominent in public life, serving as a link between the island and the monarch in a way which these days is undertaken by the Lord Lieutenant. Indeed, the last two governors, Lord Mountbatten and Lord Motistone, were also Lords Lieutenant of the island. It is less clear how much actual power the governor had in earlier centuries, but there's little to show that the role was ever much more than the ceremonial one which it became. Governorships still exist and are appointed representatives of the monarch in some Commonwealth countries. There are also lieutenant governors of Jersey, Guernsey, and the Isle of Man. These are not ceremonial roles and are salaried posts with official responsibilities. This offers the intriguing idea that the Isle of Wight once had a status more befitting a governor than a Lord Lieutenant. The implication is a degree of separation from the United Kingdom no longer reflected in everyday reality, if indeed it ever was. The idea of succession from the UK is not new on the island. It recurs amongst the far-fetched concepts that get aired around election time, causing excitement, but with no danger of becoming reality, such as the conscription, tunnels, and the return of corporal punishment. A more practical proposal is the restoration of the Isle of Wight governorship. It would provide a symbolic level of independence of negligible cost and without any of the risks of actually losing the support of the UK. I asked our current Lord Lieutenant Susie Sheldon for her thoughts on the governor's role. She confirmed that as a courtesy title, its award is in the gift of the monarch. So, if the king were minded to appoint a governor of the Isle of Wight, he could. She added that the last two governors were both close friends of the late Prince Philip. Perhaps that influenced the decision of his royal wife, Queen Elizabeth, who appointed them both to the office. There is widespread satisfaction with the role and work of the current Lord Lieutenant. So I would not wish in any way to suggest that she be defrocked in favour of some new governor. On the contrary, I believe the way forward is for us to petition the King to elevate our existing Lord Lieutenant to the rank of Governor, and for all future Lords Lieutenant on the island to have the same title. Thus we reclaim some of our history and engender rightful pride in our island distinctiveness.
The Wight in Westminster by Richard Quigley MP, Labour MP for Isle of Wight West. Over the last decade, 16 banks have shut on the island. You may think, why does that matter in an increasingly cashless society? But not everyone has access to online banking. That's why banking hubs offer a lifeline to individuals and communities alike. Politics can sometimes feel like a contest of who can shout the loudest, with real outcomes taking a back seat. That's why I'm especially pleased to share the following update. A new temporary banking hub will be opening in East Cowes in April 2025, while a permanent location is sought in Cowes, meaning constituents will have easier access to essential banking services. This was an issue people raised with me time and time again during the election campaign, so I'm really glad that island residents can access the services they so clearly need. Speaking of outcomes, I was also glad to see that this government had selected the Isle of Wight Youth Hub as one of 24 early support hubs selected to receive top-up investment, providing vital support for children and young people across the island. This is what politics and this Labour government is about, supporting the most vulnerable in our society and ensuring mental health support is available early, before crisis point is reached. This government is determined to drive economic growth, and we have a real opportunity to support that through our long-neglected shipyard industry. That is why I was proud to take part in my first Westminster Hall debate, where I had the opportunity to talk about the island's shipyards and discuss this government's pro-shipyard approach. When I was elected, I promised to always champion the island in Westminster, and that's exactly what I'm doing. On the island, I visited Rheinmetall in Electronics in Newport last Friday and saw the cutting-edge electronics they produce right here. Following the Chancellor's spring statement, I also welcomed the news that the defence industry will receive an additional £2.2 billion next year. I'm confident businesses on the island will continue our legacy of innovation, and that the government's investment will continue to support good quality, well-paid jobs for islanders.
Farming Life on the Isle of Wight by Sean Grove. Learning about Guernsey cows and cheese making. Spring has sprung, and with it comes new life, particularly with the arrival of the lambing and the calving season for our island farmers. This month, some of our Young Farmers Club, the YFC members, had the chance to visit Bridlesford Farm and learn all about their Guernsey dairy cows and calving cycle and how they produce the milk. Bridlesford is known for its high-quality milk, and it's easy to spot due to its rich, almost golden colour, thanks to the high cream content. Bridlesford milk is pasteurised to ensure it's safe for consumption, then heated and double-sealed with lids at high temperatures, producing roughly 40 bottles of milk per minute. Once bottled, the milk is chilled to 2 centigrade in a storage fridge to prevent any bacteria from growing. But it's not just milk they produce. Bridlesford also makes its own cheeses. For cheese production, around 1,500 litres of pasteurised milk are heated slowly at 1% centigrade per minute. Once it reaches the right temperature, the curds are scooped out, drained, and placed into cheese moulds before heading to the maturing room. Did you know that cheddar takes at least 6 months to mature? They also use the cream to make their own butter. With about 100 Guernsey cows producing around 2,000 litres of milk every day, the farm has a pretty steady routine. During winter, the cows are housed indoors, but in March, now that the weather is a little milder and the ground is drier, they've been turned out to pasture. The farm calves year-round, except during the colder months of December and January. Cows have a gestation period of 9 months, so the same as us. After calving, the cows usually become pregnant again within 60 to 90 days, coming into heat every 3 weeks. Once they're calved, the cows continue producing milk for around 7 months before entering a 2-month dry period prior to calving. During the dry period, they are put on a special diet to prevent them from gaining too much weight while pregnant. About a month before calving, they're brought indoors to be closer to the farm and to prepare for the new arrival. I was lucky enough to give milking a go, and I have to say I really enjoyed it. The cows were so calm and content, focused on munching their food, so we were able to get on with milking without disturbing them. The dairy has a traditional herringbone layout, and they use a swing-over milking machine so the cows can be milked on both sides of the parlour. We wiped each teat with a disinfectant wipe and attached the clusters, which have 4 suction attachments, 2 for each udder. The milk was then pumped straight into their raw milk container before being pasteurised. Oh, it was a great experience, and I left feeling more connected to the process of where our food comes from.
Why is the UK going to the dogs? Somewhere in West London, a substation explodes. 2 miles away at Heathrow, the entire airport closes, causing utter chaos. Why did Britain's biggest airport not have a well-rehearsed backup plan? Surely they should have predicted a major power outage, even sabotage. They know that Just Stop Oil protesters loathe Heathrow and would have loved to have been responsible for the chaos. But it didn't take them to get incoming aircraft from every part of the world diverted. Others returned from whence they came. Thanks to decades of NIMBYism and the usual interminable planning problems, Britain seriously lacks runway capacity. There's only one at Gatwick. It couldn't take more than a handful of diverted flights, so most landed in Europe. Naturally, it took several days to get all the poor souls affected back to where they were supposed to be. We now know that, as the unfolding crisis developed, Heathrow's £3 million a year boss went off to bed. Why didn't he stay up to liaise with the National Grid, who now claim the airport closure was completely unnecessary? Heathrow, our flagship airport, can't handle decisions or disruption, fog, snow or IT issues. Even strong winds cause problems. Even so, that 3rd runway may never happen. The latest failure is another reminder of how our country's infrastructure was gifted to big business with very few strings attached. Those private equity shysters prefer paying dividends to investing. To keep them happy, regulation is weak to non-existent. Our railways and water industries have failed spectacularly, and the National Grid teeters on the brink. They even worry about us putting on our kettles on during commercial breaks. Can you imagine the big bang that would ensue if we all plugged in new electric cars? Keir Starmer loves playing world statesman, but was incapable of keeping the fourth biggest airport in the world open. British governments rarely know what's happening and never make straightforward investment decisions. The promised dash to net zero is laughable. Heathrow generates billions for the UK economy and, thanks to a virtual monopoly, makes hundreds of millions in profit. Shareholders taking as much as possible out of the company while investing the bare minimum. Does that ring any bells a bit closer to home? British Airways, Heathrow's largest airline user, claim the airport owners heavily overcharge for using it, and their annual fee increases go far beyond what might be considered reasonable. It's worth noting that it's the airlines who bear the full cost when things go wrong, not the airport. Islanders know only too well that a White Link and Red Funnel operate in much the same way. Distant overseas investors demand the maximum return with little regard for service users, and when things go wrong, as they so often do, they're not the ones missing funerals, hospital appointments and interviews. Allowing everything to be run like this brought our country to its knees. There are simple ways of dealing with power shortages at critical pieces of national infrastructure, the most basic being to supply it from multiple substations. All it took was a little planning and knowledge. Islanders are poorly served by ageing ferries, many near the end of their useful lives. Still, no politician has ever been serious about intervening. Will they ever? Appointing a former union leader to lead another quango seems more of the same to me, although I hope I'm proved wrong. And where's that promised fixed link study? Since privatisation, Heathrow's owners have been Spanish, Australian, Canadian, and apparently now French, backed by Qataris. It makes you think, eh? It wasn't all bad news last Friday. Local residents, including my Twickenham-based son, enjoyed a wonderful day of peace and quiet.
Letters. Deteriorated. Ken Abernathy, Kelbourne. Many years ago we moved to Kelbourne. Then it was a pleasant village. When a council estate called Tennyson View, it was regarded as having the best located council houses in the south of England. Unfortunately, that is not now the case. Due to fly tipping, the general misuse and neglect of property, it has deteriorated into a virtual slum area. Yesterday, as I walked in a field nearby, I saw what I thought was a large cat, but which proved to be a rat.
Travel woes. Having to travel to QA Hospital for NHS treatment on Wednesday, March the 5th, I could not believe the terrible treatment by White Link. I just missed the 3:15 p.m. ferry due to treatment taking longer than expected. I was not allowed on the 4:15 p.m. ferry as they were using Solent Cruises as both of White Link's ferries were out of action. So I had to wait for the 5:15 p.m. boat, which did not arrive until 5:50 p.m. because the 4:15 p.m. boat sat there for 15 minutes delaying the next ferry, although it was blamed on weather. After sitting in a drafty terminal for 1.5 hours, I then had to walk up to the pier in freezing cold winds blowing right through my chest in the dark. By the time I got home, I was shivering and shaking. The next day I developed a bad phlegmy cough and was ill in bed with it for a week. 2 weeks later, I still had bronchitis. White Link refused to give me any compensation for delayed boats and have ignored a lot of points I raised. Their service has become increasingly worse over the years, but this shows their lack of customer service and complete disregard for customers' health. It took me 4.5 hours to get from QA Hospital to my home in Newport.
Oliver Kurt from Arreton. I am writing to express my concern in relation to Richard Quigley, the current MP for the Isle of Wight West. Since his election on July the 4th, 2024, replacing Bob Seeley, Mr Quigley's contributions in Parliament have been notably limited, especially when compared to his counterpart in the Isle of Wight East, Joe Robertson. Mr Quigley has made 16 spoken contributions in the Commons since taking office and has only submitted 5 written questions. In contrast, Mr Robertson has made 46 spoken contributions during the same period and has submitted a staggering 321 written questions to a variety of senior Labour ministers about key island issues such as devolution. Furthermore, Mr Robertson has actively addressed critical local issues such as the regulation of ferry services by directly questioning the Prime Minister during Prime Minister's questions. Similarly, Mr Seeley made approximately 30 spoken contributions in his first 8 months, starting from his election as MP for the Isle of Wight in 2017. This disparity in activity between our 2 MPs is alarming. Mr Quigley's limited engagement raises questions about his commitment to representing the interests of the Isle of Wight West residents. Effective representation requires active participation in parliamentary proceedings, advocating for constituents' concerns and holding the government accountable. Regrettably, Mr Quigley's current record falls short of these expectations. I urge Mr Quigley to increase his efforts in Parliament and actively engage in matters that affect our community. The residents of the Isle of Wight West deserve a representative who is visible, proactive and dedicated to addressing the issues that matter most to us, such as the ferries and the closure of primary schools on the island. We asked Mr Quigley for a response, and he said, "As both Joe and I said at the beginning, 2 MPs on the island mean twice the representation. We aren't in direct competition. We both live here with our families, so both have a shared desire to get the best outcomes for the island. Anyone that follows politics knows a lot of what happens in the chamber is theatre. The amount of questions, speeches or interventions bear little relation to delivering on the needs of constituents. Being in government also means there are far more MPs on our benches, so the rate for getting a question accepted to be asked is about 1 in 20. More of my day-to-day work is actually done outside the chamber, advocating and lobbying on behalf of constituents. What I'm pleased about is being an MP already delivering on local issues, like securing a new community banking hub for cows and getting the support of the Digital Poverty Alliance, working with local businesses to redistribute using ICT equipment to islanders. On the big things like cross-Solent travel, Joe and I continue to work together and have had several in-person and virtual meetings. I'll continue to champion the issues that matter to islanders in Westminster. Contact me by emailing richard.quigley.mp@parliament.uk. Send letters to the editor at the iwcp.co.uk.
Raises Concerns by Alan Jones of Ryde. I read with interest your article regarding the Isle of Wight Council's pursuit of exceptional status within the government's devolution framework. While I understand the desire for greater local control, I have concerns about whether such autonomy would truly serve the island's best interests under the current leadership. Recent decisions, such as the school closures, have shaken public confidence in the Council's ability to manage complex, community-sensitive matters. These actions have raised questions about transparency, accountability, and whether the Council is adequately equipped to take on even broader powers. Devolution is not inherently a bad idea, but it must be matched with proven governance and a clear vision. Without that, there's a danger that exceptional status could lead to exceptional isolation and mismanagement. It's worth asking whether closer collaboration with central government, paired with proper oversight and targeted support, might offer more tangible benefits. From infrastructure to education, consistent and effective delivery should take priority over political ambition. This letter is to prompt a necessary conversation about what kind of leadership and support structure will best serve our future.
That is it for today, and thank you.
The BBC In Touch programme follows, and the scaffolding news follows that.
The new High Street Health and Wellbeing Centre to strengthen the community health care. On the 10th of March 2025, Hampshire and Isle of Wight Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust will open the doors to a new health and wellbeing centre in the heart of Newport, marking a major step in improving local health services. A first for the island, this fully redesigned facility brings together mental health and community care in a space that is welcoming, modern, and fully accessible for everyone. Located at 62 High Street, the Newport Health and Wellbeing Centre will make it easier for people to access the care they need, with a focus on joining up services for both physical and mental health. 62 High Street, Newport Health and Wellbeing Centre, the Consultation Room, JPG. The centre boasts a spacious, open-plan layout with a warm and welcoming atmosphere. Inside you will find a cafe area perfect for a quick break, along with 11 therapy and treatment rooms designed to offer a range of support for both physical and mental health. There are also confidential spaces to manage new referrals and private areas for remote consultations, ensuring privacy and comfort for everyone. Family-friendly facilities are available, including baby changing and feeding spaces, as well as a changing places toilet designed for people with complex disabilities who may need assistance. The spring COVID-19 vaccinations campaigns begins on the 1st of April across Hants and the Isle of Wight. The rollout of the COVID-19 spring vaccination campaign to protect some of the most vulnerable people in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight begins next week. From Tuesday the 1st of April, those aged 75 years and over, care home residents and adults and children aged 6 months and over who have a weakened immune system are eligible to receive their COVID-19 vaccination. A weakened immune system includes those living with HIV, organ, bone marrow or stem cell transplant patients, those undergoing radiotherapy or chemotherapy, those with genetic disorders that affect the immune system, those taking medication which will affect their immune system. Dr. Matt Nisbet, GP and clinical lead for the NHS Hampshire and Isle of Wight COVID-19 vaccination programme, said, "While the COVID-19 pandemic may seem like a thing of the past, and we're grateful that for the large part we are continuing to live our lives like normal, we know the virus continues to circulate. For those who are eligible for the spring vaccine, there are a number of ways to get your vaccination. Many people will be invited directly via their GP practice. But if you are eligible, you don't need to wait to be invited and can book via the National Booking System by calling 119 or via the NHS app until the 16th of June.
Life After Stroke support services launching across the Isle of Wight. From the 1st of April 2025, stroke survivors and carers across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight will have access to vital life after stroke support thanks to a new funding arrangement between NHS Hampshire and the Isle of Wight and the Stroke Association. This support service is much needed after funding for a previous service was ended by the Isle of Wight Council in 2023. This partnership ensures that once survivors have received acute care and rehabilitation, they can access dedicated support to help them regain independence, link them into NHS and other care and assistance they need, and reduce the risk of further strokes. NHS Hampshire and Isle of Wight has commissioned the Stroke Association to offer this service across our region from the 1st of April 2025. This builds on the success of a support service which NHS Hampshire and Isle of Wight had already been funding with the Stroke Association in some parts of Hampshire. It means stroke survivors across the whole of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight will have access to support from the charity. You have a massive stroke, you go through the hospital, and then you're released and you're on your own and you feel lost. You don't know what the next step is without the Stroke Association. With its ageing population, the number of people living with the lasting effects of stroke on the island is around 50% higher than the national average. Outpatients and Diagnostic Centre now open at St Mary's. The blood testing department has been relocated to the Outpatients and Diagnostic Centre located at the North Hospital site at St Mary's Hospital. Patients will now need to check in for their blood test appointments at the self-check-in points located within the Outpatients and Diagnostic Centre. The relocation of the current department will support several improvements for patients who need a blood test at the hospital. The new department will provide more privacy, and the sensory room for patients who need additional support during their blood test will be located within the department. All blood tests at St Mary's Hospital are by appointment only. Appointments should be booked using our new online system or by calling our automated phone line. More information about how to book a blood test, as well as information about GP requested blood tests, can be found on our website. If your GP or nurse wants you to have a blood test, please contact your practice to arrange or book an appointment. This includes GP requested blood tests such as routine, urgent, fasting, and annual routine.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello.
Now it's turning me to the left, turning me right a bit.
Is it a long cane?
Oh, it's turning me sharp left now. Oh, that's exciting.
Is it a guide dog? No. But something's doing the steering.
90 degrees there.
All will be revealed later when we visit one of the world's biggest assistive technology exhibitions. But first, the organisation Retina UK needs your help. It describes itself as the only charity in the UK which specifically focuses on inherited sight loss. These are conditions which tend to be progressive. They can involve changes in your degree of sight as you grow older. Retina UK is about to conduct a new survey of people with such conditions to discover more about how people cope and what further help they can be offered. Tina Garvey is Retina UK's Chief Executive. Tina, first of all, tell us a bit more about the kind of conditions you're talking about, because some of these are quite well known and some of them are much rarer.
Yes, there are some niche factors to having an inherited retinal dystrophy. It can run through families, it can bring on sight loss slowly or quickly. So it really is a group of rare conditions with a genetic diagnosis, so almost like a group of micro conditions. So there are some that are very well known, such as Stargardt's and Usher's, but there are some genes where there may only be a few people in the country who are living with that specific genetic defect.
And what is it that you're really trying to find out? What do you want people to tell you?
So we've been doing this tracker survey now for 6 years. This is our third survey, but basically it does 4 things for us. One is that Retina UK is a community-led organisation, and the insight that we get from our community lets us know where they're at, what they're up to, what their challenges are. But it also helps us gather insights so we can do the very best for this community, and we want to know how we can make the biggest impact on their lives quickly, and that's the most important thing. It also helps us on a secondary level to support the 3,500 amazing professionals that are in contact with Retina UK to further improve their knowledge and ability to support this niche group of people. And we've already seen an increase in our referrals of 250% year on year. So that's a really strong secondary reason to do this survey.
Are there particularly people who you want to hear from? You know, are there groups in the community who you feel have been underrepresented, you think, perhaps in previous surveys?
So we want to hear from anyone living with inherited sight loss, both parents, carers and their child's perspectives as well in those families. So we did find out in 2022 that only 9% of our respondents were under the age of 35 and 94% were from a white background. So we're really looking to try and target people under 30s and people from different ethnic backgrounds so we can get a really good spread of what this community as a whole needs.
Can you give us examples of the kind of thing that you've been able to do, you know, as a result of the couple of surveys you've already done?
Absolutely. So there's 2 main statistics that came out of our first survey that really stuck with us. One was the amount of people, or relatively low number of people, who could name their genetic diagnosis. It was 16%. And that felt really, really low, both for family planning purposes, but also for research and future treatment purposes. We really needed to try and get that number up. And I'm delighted to say that by 2022, that had doubled. So over a third of people could name their genetic disease type. Now, we think this is in part down to the development of a new project, Unlock Genetics, which is an online resource to really empower the community to ask the right questions, push for that genetic diagnosis. So when treatments come along, or clinical trials, or even information on their specific gene, we are able to give it to them easily. The second statistic that was really stark to us is the amount of people who had had some psychological impacts because of their sight loss. So only 7% of respondents said that they didn't have any impacts like this. So we launched another project called Discover Wellbeing, which you can do independently online, or you can do it with a human mentor. And what that's designed to do is to stop people getting to crisis point.
Tina, RNIB and Fight for Sight have done their own surveys recently. Is there a risk of duplication here? I mean, we know about the financial problems that some visual impairment charities are having. So it would be a bad thing, wouldn't it, if we were all doing the same thing with the same results?
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more, and I certainly couldn't talk on behalf of Fight for Sight and RNIB. But at Retina UK, we are very focused on the specific aspects of having an inherited retinal condition. And there are differences with living with an inherited condition that is different to other sight loss conditions. And we really do focus on that and how we can support in that niche area.
So how can people take part in your survey, given that they will, by definition, be visually impaired?
Exactly. So we pride ourselves on being totally accessible. So you can visit our website where you will find the survey link on the homepage, but we can also do this by telephone. So if you would like to ring our helpline, it is on the website, but the number is 01280 821 334, and any of our staff we'll be more than happy to help you go through the survey on the phone, if that makes it easier. We can also send you a paper copy in large print from our office. And if you do speak another language, please do get in touch with us, because we will absolutely do our best to endeavour to find somebody to do it in your own language, because we are really, really keen to get everybody's viewpoint.
And what's the closing date?
It closes on the 25th of April, so plenty of time to get in touch with us.
Tina Garvey, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now, the development of assistive technology moves ever faster, so fast in fact that it's not always easy to find out exactly what's available and what's going to be useful to you. Perhaps the world's biggest showcase for it is the CSUN Assistive Technology Conference, which has just had its 40th annual showcase in Los Angeles. There, on his own account, was Gary O'Donoghue, fresh from the Royal Television Society Award for his stellar reporting immediately after the attack on Donald Trump, and Emma Tracy, another of our reporters, and presenter of Access All. That's the BBC podcast focusing on disability and mental health. So, hello to both of you.
Hello.
Gary,
Hello.
First of all, briefly, just explain the scope and significance of CSUN.
It's vast. It is the premier conference every year for disability equipment, software, services. Everyone's there, not just disability organisations and companies, but big Silicon Valley players, Amazon, Google, Microsoft. And it's a sort of a combination of a conference with people presenting papers and having workshops and that sort of thing, with vendors, displaying their wares. I think this time well north of sort of 4,500 delegates were there. So it's a pretty big organisation, and it's the place to go to see what's new, and people hold on to stuff to show it at CSUN when it's new.
OK, so now to the equipment which you two did a kind of double act with. It's called Glide, and this is what happened when they let you both loose on it.
It's a very strange sensation. It really does steer you, doesn't it?
It really does steer you. You're moving much more quickly than you have been over the last couple of days with your cane.
Interesting. I can hear something there that has steered us around. So let me look at the bottom of it. So it's got two wheels. It's got a sort of handly bit on the front.
That's a bumper.
The bumper.
So when you stand it up,
yes,
it stays standing up.
And it looks like a sort of kettle bit, a sort of potty kettle type thing.
A potty kettle?
Well, sort of look, the wheels are spinning while it's in the air.
It's got a rim of LEDs.
Oh, has it?
To kind of keep you safe if it's dark.
Oh, that's clever. So it shines in the outdoors.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not very happy, is it?
It's like a dog that's been picked up.
And it's like a thick sort of vacuum cleaner handle
It
made
does
of
feel
metal.
a little bit like taking your cordless vacuum for a walk.
It does. It's got these two cameras on the front, which if you put your hand in front of it
Well,
goes mad.
that's on this version, but there's a newer version that doesn't you can't feel the cameras. They're all like slick inside the handle.
And it's got some buttons on the handle which align with where your fingers are when you're holding it, which is they're going to do something at some point in the future.
And it won't be that noisy.
I'm not sure I mind it being that noisy, to be honest.
Well, I could definitely hear where you were in the lobby.
Could you?
Yes.
That may be a disadvantage or an advantage.
My name is Amos Miller. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Glidance. So Glide is a personal mobility aid that uses autonomous driving technology to guide the person, and really providing an alternative option alongside the cane and the guide dog. I would say that it provides blind people with another tool in the toolbox. What it does is, as you walk forward, it guides the person by steering its wheels. The user holds the handle, nudges the device forward, and the wheels steer a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, guiding the person.
And by the time you release it, it's going to do more than stopping you bumping into things, right?
Well, so what it does now is it looks for a safe path to guide you on, and it attempts to steer you around obstacles. But if you're going too fast, or if somebody jumps in front of it too quickly, if it can't steer you around, it will apply the brakes.
But you're going to have some GPS elements in it, so it can take you to certain places. You're going to have some AI, so you can talk to the thing, and you can give it instructions.
That's right. So the first bar is what we call freestyle navigation. That's when the user knows the route, and Glide keeps them safe, helps them to locate targets in the environment. Once we have that in place, we can then plug it into navigation maps where you can walk into a hotel, and we make an AI query like, hey, Glide, what's going on around here? And Glide will say, there's a reception desk, there's elevators, and you can turn one of those objects that it can see into a target that Glide will guide you to.
Obviously, we're still in prototype at this point. When will people in the UK be able to get hold of it, and how much will it cost them?
So we have our pioneers, the people who have pre-ordered the device, will start to use the devices this fall and early winter. We'll then open up for sales likely in the beginning of 26.
Amos, I need to come in here.
Yes, Emma.
Obviously, I'm particularly concerned about what it looks like. At the moment, it's a little bit like taking a little cordless vacuum for a walk. Can I change how it looks?
So one of the things that we're looking at is how people can customize the look with wraps, with accessories, that you can personalize your device in the way that many people like to personalize their canes today, and phones and everything else. So absolutely.
And what will it cost? What is the cost?
So in the US, it's $1,500, so $1,499 and a $30 subscription, and we'll do the conversion for UK. And
so you won't do a straight £1,500?
No.
Because that happens a lot.
It does happen.
Okay, maybe we'll do that. I was saying to the team yesterday that In Touch is one of the most cherished programs on the BBC.
Still going after 50 years or whatever.
Well, if he thinks that'll make us be nice about it, he's got another thing coming. Emma, just quickly, is it a goer?
I think it has an awful lot of potential. They're very honest and clear about the fact that it isn't ready yet, and there's a lot more to do, and that development will just continue and continue because it's full of AI jiggery pokery, so it'll be learning as it goes along. So yes, I think it is something, either it or some sort of similar item made by maybe another person, because once the other companies see Glide, they'll want to get on board. I do think it is something that will be useful. I can see there being a robot in my life in 5 or 10 years' time.
Well, I heard Amos say at some point that it might well appeal to older visually impaired people. Do you think that's true?
I think what Amos is hoping for is that it has a much, much smaller learning curve than learning how to use a cane, and then in terms of learning how to use a dog as well. But obviously dogs, there are waiting lists, etc., etc. So I think the small learning curve, they would hope, would make it easier for people to just take it out and use it very quickly. And also it would be readily available to be just sent to them. And it could happen that they would use it much earlier in their sight loss journey, because as we know, many people who are blind have lost their sight over time.
Gary, what about you?
Yeah, I was saying to Em when I got to see something that I was a massive sceptic about this before I saw it. A massive sceptic. Yeah. And, I warmed to it, actually, the potential for it, certainly. And, even just that first use, it did stop you banging into things, which, is not insignificant, as you know. And, if they can get all these parts to work together, because 1,500 quid plus £30 a month is a lot of money to stop banging into things, I think I'll stick with my cane. But if it can do a lot more than that, then I think there's some real potential there. The thing I was struck by is that, I've never had a dog, so I've never had that experience of walking freely, if you like, and trusting something else to stop me falling down steps or walking into something. I mean, you've had a dog, but I found myself able to trust it kind of reasonably quickly, which I was surprised about.
And just a quick a use case for it, Peter. They were saying, and I can see this, because of the AI, it'll pick up everybody else's routes that have used glides. So all the glides will be connected in some way. And one of the use cases was going from your aeroplane, if you're getting a flight, to like wherever you want, like your baggage claim or the taxi or something, which is something that, blind people waiting for assistance, etc., that can be really difficult.
OK, let me move you on, because there were loads of things, obviously, at that exhibition. We can't cover many of them, really. But Emma, anything else that just took your fancy?
I don't know if it took my fancy, but it certainly caught my interest. I had a go at some shoe inserts. They're called Ashiraze. No idea why they're called that, but they're Honda's first startup. They're due to launch in the US at $500 with a little I think $2 a month subscription on top. And basically they go into trainer style shoes. So you'd have to wear trainers all the time, Peter, if you're going to use these. They are attached to an app and they vibrate at different speeds depending on how far or close or further away you are from your destination on the route. The left one vibrates if you need to turn left and the right one vibrates if you need to turn right. And if you want to reset it, I can hear you all sniggering there.
Well, we can hear Gary sniggering. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you want to reset it, you don't have to press the button on your phone, Peter. Do you know what you do instead?
Stamp
your foot.
Yeah, I got
twice. Yeah. And to be honest, they were really, really accurate in terms of the turns.
Right.
It's not necessarily something I would get, but I was willing to give it a good old shot and I wasn't disappointed.
Be brief, Gary. I must let you just react because we've heard you
It's just the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
All right. Pick something more sensible then in your eyes. One thing.
Oh God,
that
he's going to start talking about braille displays now, Peter.
No, I'm not. Although there was a lovely braille display that I envy and want so much, but it's $12,500, so that will never happen.
Right, we won't bother to ask you what that does.
No. But the one thing, I tell you what, I spent some money, and I only spent money on one thing there, and that was I did a pre-order for some new smart glasses that are coming on the market. Now, wearables, as they call them, are the big thing, and we know, and we've talked before on In Touch about the Meta Ray-Ban glasses and how you can use the AI to describe things, to read things, to tell you what's going on, but you can also use them to hook up to video interpretation services like Aira and Be My Eyes, and they can guide you through that camera on your head. So, we all know as blind people, you never have enough hands. You've only got two. That's not enough. There's a cane in one hand, there's a bag in another. You can't hold a phone.
A shoe in the third.
Shoe in and so there's there are people developing new smart glasses, and I saw a pair made by a company called Echovision, or a company called Giga, but the product's called Echovision. And I thought that the brief demo we had was very promising.
Gary O'Donoghue, Emma Tracy, thank you both very much. And that's it for today. Questions and comments, please. We'd particularly like to hear from anyone who has comments or questions resulting from last week's Green Paper on possible changes, including cuts to the benefits system. We'll be seeking answers to those questions in the coming weeks. Email intouch@bbc.co.uk or leave voice messages on 0161 836 1338. From me, Peter White, and producer Beth Hemmings, goodbye.
Scaffolding and skips news for the week commencing 28th of March 2025. Starting in the Newport area, Fabian Barber's Shop, Pyle Street, 33 Lugley Street, 43 Key Street, Visual Impact 21 Holyrood Street, Guildhall, Quayside, Key Street, Halifax, 116 High Street.
The Ryde area, Castle Street, Watson, Bull and Porter, 9 High Street, 87 High Street. Ryde area skips, ABRI, Madeira Road, Seaview, The Lodge, Fairy Road, Seaview, 16 Hamilton Road, 5 Ribelow Street, 75 High Street.
In the Cowes area, 72D High Street, Ship and Castle, 21 Castle Street, East Cowes, Granville Road, Royal Yacht Squadron, Cowes area skips, 39 Newport Road.
Ventnor area skips, Shaw Road, Car Park, 48 Trinity Road.
Freshwater area, Flaxton Cottage, Weststone Lane, Topland. There you go.
Freshwater area, Flaxton Cottage, Weststone Lane, Totland. Sandown area, 3 Fort Street, Premier Inn, 1 to 9 The Esplanade, Sandown area skips Station Avenue.